When the outdated tactics get left behind, it's time we stop. Marketers look around when your ranking's going down.
It's the Jim and Ann Show, the Jim and Ann Show. I am Jim.
I am Ann.
All right.
That's why it's called Jim and Ann.
So I was going through some of the questions I had asked on Facebook if people have questions that they would want me and Ann to ramble on about. And one of the questions came from Brian Gilbert, and he was asking about what we recommend for internal linking. Ooh, internal linking. I think it's way more important than people give credit for in the value of SEO things. I think almost everyone doesn't do it right.
Yep.
Or they have there's opportunity with most sites because they're not doing it right.
Yeah, one of those common checks that I always do is checking the crawler and finding pages that have very few internal links and seeing if there is anything important of those by batch. So it's a very important step in any audit.
So that kind of brings up a point of the majority of websites, 99.999% of them, I guess that's a majority, have a lot of their pages that are just not going to rank. They used to be called supplemental results. Now there's just, most sites have a big section of pages that are not going to rank. They don't have enough trust or whatever you want to call it to rank. And often if you analyze a website and, looked at the stuff that ranks versus the stuff that doesn't rank, the pages that don't rank are usually the stuff that's buried deep down within the website. It's, in order to reach these pages, you got to go 10 clicks down from the home page and only 2 other internal pages on the site link to this end page. And it really has no power. It's so far away from any page with power. And so that brings up other questions. What do you do with that page? Do you get rid of that page? Do you try and make your site thinner, less hierarchical? Do you try and, ended a page earlier where it's like, here's all the products of this and don't have the products index because it could go on forever, and try and just rank that main page? Do you link? Well, you probably should link all the pages together. If you have something 10 levels down and only 2 internal pages that link to it, like, you might as well just throw it away. Unless it's there for the user, but I'd block all that by the engine so they don't look at it as a low value page on the site.
So there are structural ways to kind of start with, and those are main navigation, those are breadcrumbs, and you also can increase the number of products or blog posts on your pages kind of to make the pagination less, but keep an eye on your vitals and your load time when you do that. So those 3 ways that to consider when you are thinking about how to interlink more of my pages with structure, like with one change, so to say, like not handling anyone specifically, but site-wide changes first to consider when you're dealing, especially with big websites or very old, huge blogs or magazines or whatever. So those 3 are probably the first ones to start with. Then you do crawl your website and find pages that have very few backlinks. Even after that, when you do tweak your navigation, you try to show more in your navigation, you probably tweak your footer to feature some stuff there. So after you do all those site-wide changes that make sense, you still crawl your website and find pages that still have very few backlinks, and then you try to figure out, do you need them? If you do need them, how do I surface them closer to the homepage? So I would think that are the first steps, diagnosing and fixing your internal structure.
Yeah, so I think you bring up a good point in that a site can be too big basically you want to cut off anything that's of zero value to your site, because the stuff of zero value to your site could actually be hurting your site. So I think you bring up a good point of, first it's what is all there? What's the buried stuff? What is this? Does any of the stuff have any value? Does it have backlinks or good content or not? Is it valuable stuff? Is it good for the user, but not good for the engine? Or should we keep it, but not tell the search engines about all this stuff? That's another whole thing. Should it be there for the user, but not for the engines? But yeah, that's a great analysis, because often you want to have your site not with extra low quality stuff on it. You just don't want to ignore the low quality stuff, because the low quality stuff can hurt your site now. If we look at internal linking structures, I guess there's other things to look about as well. Let's say you're a company that sells products, and maybe you have, you're the big widget company, but on your big widget company, you have, maybe 5 different kinds of widgets. You got indoor widgets, you got outdoor widgets, you got, I don't know, widgets for kids, you got widgets for adults, and you got green widgets. I don't know. You have 5 main categories out there. So when we talk about, internal linking and what is the best for SEO, I guess there brings up a bunch of points. If you have 5 main categories, and let's say each category has 100 products on it, so now you got 500 products, what should your internal linking structure look like for that? I guess most sites you'd be like, all right, you got 5 main links across your top nav. Maybe you click on those and it brings you to a category page. Is that the best way, or should you click on the product and see, some huge drop down of, here's 50 of those, indoor widgets. And if you click on the outdoor widgets, maybe you get a great big drop down of here's 50 outdoor widgets. What's best, Ann?
There are many ways to approach that. And depending on your website, it could be a different combination of tactics to do. But yes, the good point is that you do need more specific categories to surface more products, because if you have 500 products within one category, you cannot do without pagination. And then people in search engines will have to go next until they find something. If you do more specific categories with fewer products within each one, those will be pulled closer to the homepage, closer in site architecture, and then they will be easier to find by search engines, and they will be more important for search engines as well. So
that's a good point. So you're saying if I had a main category of indoor widgets, and let's say I have 500 of those, that you're right, you'd have to go to if you went to that main category page, just next. Yeah,
but there are always opportunities to find the way to come up with more specific categories, like price range, for example. Pull them by price range, and people often search for widget price or widget cheaper than price. So look for those keywords and come up with your way to do those price ranges. And then if you add them to the main navigation under that category, suddenly you have all those things that kind of surface.
Point. I also like, you brought up a good way with the different price ranges, but almost any way to create new categories. Often it's like for uses, like, widgets for plumbers, widgets for stay-at-home dads, whatever. And
there are always different ways to come up with more specific categories, and those would also be your keywords, like long-tail keywords as well. So there is double benefit in that.
And the reason for a lot of this is, I just wanted to repeat because it's really important, that like your paginated pages, your page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they're not going to rank for anything. So it's like, whatever you have on page 1 and whatever those products are, that's kind of what's going to rank. Page 2, although I've seen some neat tricks. And I have. Well, one of the most cleverest thing that a client did is they put, like widget page 2, widget page 3, widget page 4, widget page 5. They actually put in the left nav bar, put unique content on the top of each one of those pages. And actually page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 actually rank within all their categories because they actually put unique content on the top of each one of those and gave it a name and put it in the left nav bar. And I have seen really, really, really clever uses of how to get around, your page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 not ranking. But for a lot of people, what I just described isn't an option. Although if it is an option for you, you owe me a few beers if you do.
Yeah, and then nothing is stopping you from combining those two tactics. So you can kind of treat your pagination a little bit smarter and come up with more specific categories to have more products and more keywords to target. So
now let's say let's say we're on the main category page for indoor widgets. And we say, all right, this is a commercial page, obviously. This page may be links to, 40 other indoor widget products on this page. So if we think about internal linking, we say, all right, well, we know that this particular indoor widget category page has the same top nav, bottom nav, probably side nav. So we say, all right, what is the internal linking structure of this page? Well, it has a site-wide link, links to 20 products related to it, or 40 products related to it. Should that page have other links on it, Anne? Should that page have links to, I don't know, a wiki article on that thing, or
that's another step in your internal audit when you have to combine different parts of your website through internal links. Say you have how-to section, you have product category section, and you have blog section or like video gallery section on whatever you have. And those on many websites exist separately. So when you do your internal linking planning, that's another step. So after you thought about your category pages or subcategory pages, after you did those breadcrumbs, if you have subcategories, you make sure those are also in breadcrumbs as well to kind of increase their internal linking from each product page back to the main page. So after you do all of that, so the next step, you think, how do I interlink my different section of the site, because they cannot be islands? And that's when you think, hey, I have that indoor widget category page, and I have those tutorials on how to do indoor whatever you're selling. So that's when you link to from that category page to those how-tos, and make sure that those how-tos are also linking back to that category page. And also, in ideal world, you kind of feature some of your most popular products on that page, how-to page as well, because through breadcrumbs, there will be even more internal linking flow, all of that. So.
And I want to repeat a lot of what you just said, because it was actually such valuable information that so few people do. So we're talking about, if you have an indoor widget page, that Ann, you're saying if you have blog posts about indoor widgets, you should add links to those on that page. If you have a news section on your site and you happen to talk about, indoor widgets in there, you might want to add those links to your category page. If you don't know, white papers or something, and you wrote some stuff about indoor widgets, you might want to add that to your main widget category page.
Or if you have free tools, you also want to interlink them with the rest of your website. So
yeah. So, when Google is looking at who is the indoor widget expert, they're going to look at a lot of stuff. Of course, they're going to look at how powerful is the website? What are the backlinks to the site? What's the content on the site? What's the user experience on the website? What are the words on the page? They're going to look at all this stuff, but they're also going to try and determine what site is the expert at indoor widgets. And part of becoming an expert on indoor widgets, there's lots of things. Yeah. Backlinks, citations, blah, 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 blah. But part of it can also be, this site has 30 other pages about indoor widgets, these informational pages, not commercial page. All right, your site has a bunch of commercial pages about indoor widgets. That's nice. But if you're like, there's also 30 pages of informational content about widgets. And in a perfect world, you take your category page or your product page about widgets, and people never do this. They don't realize, add the links to that trusted information stuff on the bottom of those pages. So Google kind of sees there's this circle of links around indoor widgets on your site. You have these commercial pages, and then you're also linking your commercial stuff to this informational stuff. You see, all right, you've got commercial pages, you got informational pages. It all is linked together. And Google's like, yeah, that helps to make you look like more of an expert in the eyes of Google on indoor widgets, more so than if you're like, here's all of our widgets for sale. Here's a bunch of our e-commerce pages. Over here, buried in the blog, there happens to be some articles way in the past at times about widgets. Over here in the news section, over the years, there's been a couple of stuff in here super buried. You got some white papers kind of buried down in here. None of that stuff is linking to that stuff. And it's kind of like, you got to think about it as a circle. Like those informational pages should link to at least your main commercial page on that topic. If not, a couple of the sub pages, and those money pages should link to this information stuff. It's trying to create this little circle of links that Google says, we understand that there's this circle on the website of all this content, and there's commercial pages, there's informational pages. In a perfect world, you also have some stuff in that circle that has backlinks to it. I'm kind of taking this a step further, but if you could be like, something that could get citations, maybe it's like, you won't believe these most amazing indoor widgets around the world or something. Throw that into that category. Or maybe it's something like the science of how indoor widgets were built in the early 1900s, and schools linked to it. Or so ideally, in a perfect world, you can also do something which can get citations, or maybe you interview the expert of that area and put that piece of content in there. But you want to have your commercial pages, you want to have your expert informational pages, and in a perfect world, you also want some stuff in there that also has citations as well.
Look around when your ranking's going down.